You have no idea how much time I spent for this one thing to work. Welcome to the 1000 Hour Challenge, a series where I will spend 1000 hours learning a skill of my choosing. My deadline is 2 years, and when 900 hours have passed, the last 100 will be spent on utilizing what I've learned to create something special. Hello there, it's this time of the week again. It's the 4th week and I've been doing JavaFX all week. If you don't know what JavaFX is, basically it's a graphical user interface that you can use to interact with your program. And I like it very much because it's something I can show and it's something that I can see and see how it's working. It's much better to use a graphical user interface. It's more user-friendly and it's better than just using console commands, for example, like I did in my previous tic-tac-toe games. I'm trying to develop a tic-tac-toe game and it's not really going well right now because I ran out of time. But in the meantime, before I did that, I did a lot of other programs, which I'm gonna show you later. One of the programs are a drop calculator. As I mentioned in my previous videos, almost all of them I think, I used to play RuneScape, so I made a drop calculator. So this drop calculator is something that I will actually be using in the future. Previously I've just done some theoretical practice work, but in this program it's actually really useful for me and I will actually have a use in the future for it. And therefore it's been much more motivating for me and trying to shape it as I like. And speaking of shaping it, it's been really difficult to get the program working. It's a lot of difficult code you have to work with when you're making a graphical user interface. But I think I finally got it working. For example, just to say something real quick about the program without getting into details, tables, for example, when you display that, it's just static. So in order for me to update it, I came out with a workaround, so I have to remove an entire table and then re-add it, and it's just, yeah, it's difficult to get a hold of things, but once you do, it's super rewarding and I super recommend it to learn JavaFX. One more thing that is really useful when learning JavaFX is that you can probably, I'm not saying you can, but you can probably translate this into Android Studio code for IA creating apps. I think you can do this because I see a lot of similarities back when I tried to create apps but didn't know anything about how to do it. I see a lot of lambda expressions, I see a lot of override, and I finally think I get a hold of things. For example, set on action, that you're supposed, like the program is supposed to create something or do something when you press a button and communicate with these different buttons and labels and text. And this has just been super rewarding for me. I think I'm slowly and steadily getting towards working with apps, and for every day I do JavaFX, I feel like I can learn something really useful to translate into Android Studio. So basically this week has been super rewarding, but no more talking, let's get into the video. Hello, so I started off the week by doing some more FX stuff, and this is how far I've gotten. A simple click me button, and when I click it I get to another window, and this is what happens when I try to click the base window. I get an error. So I think this is pretty neat and it will become useful in the future, definitely. This is just a spin-off of the last thing I was doing. Now it looks like this instead, so when you press click me, you get an alert box. Are you sure you want to send that? And if you press yes, it comes back as true. Press no, it comes back as false. So the two windows are now communicating with each other. Very helpful. So I just learned how to exit the program properly. So if you press exit and yes, the program will close. If you press exit and press no, it will not close. However, if you press here and press no, it will not close. And yeah, you probably get the idea. Okay, so now I'm at the point where I want to try and make my own program with a functioning GUI and all that stuff. This is, I feel, the first steps towards becoming a great app builder. So if I could just learn how to not master but just get better at JavaFX, I think I could understand Android Studio a bit more in the future. I'm gonna give it a go, maybe give it an hour, half an hour, and see how which kind of program I end up with. Here we are, 20 or 30 minutes later, I don't know, I lost track of time. I created something I think is really cool. If you ever played RuneScape, you probably know about raids in old school RuneScape, and these are the names of some of the drops you can get. So I pulled the data from the official wiki of what the chances are, and I created my own little dice program. So when you fire it up, you can roll the rage dice and you can see how much you get or what you get. So this time I got an arcane prayer scroll, I got another arcane, I got an Elmo ancestral, yeah, and it just keeps going like that. So I find this really cool because this is the first time I made something that I can actually find useful, because it really shows you how rare the twisted bow is, which is worth so much in game. But I think it's really, I don't know, giving for me to make something that I can actually use in the future, or not really use, but just find it really interesting and see how rare the different drops are. So the next step, I think I'm gonna incorporate some kind of tracker inside the box here. I'm not sure how to do that yet, but I guess I'm gonna have to look at some more YouTube videos and find that out. But I would like to develop this because this program is actually really useful. It's the first time I've done something for myself that's actually useful when it comes to coding. And of course I forgot to show you how it works. So when you press the roll button, it creates a bunch of integers, and for the first, the drop table consists of 29 different rolls you can make. So I made a function, I made a function that takes in the max number of rolls you can get, and then it just makes a random next integer. It's really simple, and then it sends it back. And I have +1 here because otherwise I would get zeros, and I would not like to have that, so that's why I did that. So after you made the main roll, it chooses either to get into the Dexed versus Arcane, the Twisted versus Dragon Hunter Crossbow, the Dean's versus Ancestral Set or Dragon Claws, Elder versus Kodai versus Twisted, and once it's in one of these, it goes back and it rolls a so-called sub-roll. And in the sub-roll, it could be different. It could be 5 different options, 3 different options, 2 different options. Yeah, you get the idea. So then it goes back to the function and creates another random variable inside this section. And then if it rolls 1, you get the Din's Bulwark, and yeah, it just keeps going like that. So this is the first time I am actually using a function multiple times for 2 different uses. So I think I'm really developing here, and I'm really pushing myself forward, and that's a really good sign. You have no idea how much time I spent for this one thing to work. So basically I have a list here that's supposed to show how many times they have dropped, and now I finally got it working. And for example, when you get an ancestral robe top, it gets added here, and this just took so much time. I think I spent like 2 hours trying to figure it out. I had to remake the entire drop thing, and I learned how to do arrays of objects while I was at it. So basically what I did was I removed everything from the get items, it's not even here anymore, from the get items function, and I just added the drop array so it would pass through and get passed to the drop array here. And after I did that, this is a drop array, by the way, so I had to learn first how to make an array just from this class, and it wasn't particularly hard, but it was hard to find a good guide that would explain how to do this. So once I did that, it was much easier for me to get something working. So basically what I did is that I changed the drop array that I would set the times dropped from the getters and setters over here. And after I did that, I did this. Let me just remove this for a second. I did this so I would have to get all the items again. But when I did that, instead of updating the already existing table, this happens. Yeah, it adds an entire new array to it with the updated item, of course. But of course, I don't want that. I want to not have to add it again. I want to just have it update without adding everything else and make it double. So therefore, I figured out how to remove everything and then re-add it. So now it works. And if you're asking why I need to do this at all, I'm gonna show you right here. If I don't add this, this is what happens. It gets updated, but it doesn't reflect the table because this was just a static array, so I have to remove it and then re-add it. But I finally got it working. I was up until 2 AM just figuring out how I was supposed to do this, but now I finally got it working and I can keep tweaking this little program. This is the probably finalized version of my Chambers drop simulator. I think I got it to where I'm satisfied, but I would like to develop it more in the future. I just don't really know what I'm supposed to do to develop it more right now. But I added some really simple things. This works as intended and it goes up like that. I added one really useful function which is clear table. So when I press this, yeah, table clears and you can start over from the beginning. And this is my favorite. Click here to roll multiple at the same time. So for example, if I want to get 50 drops, I just get it like this. One room for improvement that I would like to do is a kind of pop-up box where you can see all of the stuff that you got instead of just seeing the latest drop here. But yeah, that's just some quality of life stuff. Anyways, I'm satisfied with how this looks, and I think I'm gonna leave this for a while now. If you're interested in the code, here it is. Yep, nothing really interesting to see. One of the key points I changed is just the do while thing and times to loop, so it would work together with multiple drops, and I also divided it instead of having it in the main function to a separate method. Moving on to the next thing. This is the tic-tac-toe game. Yeah, this is the tic-tac-toe game. It looks really beautiful as it is right now. I have no idea how to do this in a more proper way. I'm pretty sure you can, but I just scraped the surface of this thing because I have no time left. It's Sunday right now and it's 6 PM and I'm supposed to go out in like 10 minutes, but I just wanted to update you and show you how it looks before I edit this video. So this is how it looks when it runs. It has no functional ability. I mean, it's not beautiful. I don't even know how to center these letters yet, but if you watch my earlier videos, you kind of get the idea of how it's supposed to look. It's a work in progress, and hopefully I have an updated version for you next week. Let's talk a bit about the spreadsheet. I've spent 28.5 hours at the moment, and if this was according to my schedule, I should be down here finishing the 4th week. Unfortunately, I have been busy, but I've been taking a bit of the time back throughout the week, but it's probably or definitely not enough. I have to work a lot to get back on track. I haven't got as much work next week, so I'm gonna be able to sit I think 2 days in a row and just try to get back onto level 5, because I'm level 2 right now and I'm supposed to start level 5 at the end or start of next week. So this is how the checklist is looking right now. I haven't really touched the orange, yellow and red at the moment because I've been focused on just creating in JavaFX. I'm pretty sure I can change this to orange because I got a much better understanding of how JavaFX works. But safe shutdowns is not really much to talk about. It's just turning it off correctly, and all this stuff is getting better and better. I still have no idea about listeners and how to use them, and I know I'm gonna have to use them if I want to move on to Android Studio, so I probably have to work a lot with listeners this week, or next week I mean. If there is one thing I would like to talk about in this week, what I've learned, it's the setters and getters and the arrays containing objects and classes, because that's what I spent most time on. I ran into some trouble, not get it with the setters and getters, but the array containing objects and classes. And as I showed you earlier, it took me a while to figure it out how I'm supposed to work with the arrays containing the classes. But other than that, I think this is pretty straightforward. I'm not satisfied with being level 2 during my 4th week, but I'm gonna work hard on that for next week. So let's talk about next week. I think that I'm going to start by finishing off the tic-tac-toe game, and once I get that to the point where I'm satisfied, or at least where I don't know how to move forward, I'm going to try and move on to Android Studio. And I'm not sure that 28 hours of content creation can lead me into doing Android Studio efficiently, but I think that JavaFX and this week of doing JavaFX has really helped me to get a deeper understanding of how it's supposed to work. So to summarize, I'm just going to finish off the tic-tac-toe game, and once that is finished off, I'm going to give Android Studio a try. And if that doesn't work out, I'm gonna have to figure it out throughout the week what I'm gonna do. So that was everything I have for this week. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.